Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a delight to be here, and it's also significant that I am the person who's standing between you and your coffee break. So I have this 3-hour presentation that I thought I might give you, but I've been told I can't do that. I have to speak more quickly. And indeed, the topic which I am going to be talking about is one that you could speak about for several days. But can we have the slides up, please? Lovely. Next slide, please. So a number of you will have heard of the video store called Blockbuster, and that at its peak had 528 stores in the UK, and the last one closed in December 2013. Why is that? And it's this company called Netflix. So we see that there's disruptive innovation in technology. Last month, the BBC reported that there are no CD shops in New York. You no longer see those in New York. Those who come from New York might know differently. Anyhow, there's a new model of teaching called the Khan Academy in America. This is based on the fact that students now do their learning from standard lectures at home, and then they do what used to be their homework back at school. And so there's a reversal of the way that people engage with learning. Now, the next slide, there's good advice from Harvard Business Review about thinking outside the box, but in fact their advice is about thinking inside the box. And so the question really is, how do we actually think outside the box? And so today's agenda is around 3 things. The first thing is how to improve your horizon scanning, in other words, to work out what's important. The second point is that it's not only ideas that you need to have, but the ability to execute them well. And I want to finish with a very simple technique that will help you to think outside the box. Now, if we go back a couple of 100 years, then the amount of information that people had was far less. The big challenge nowadays is trying to sort out what is a significant piece of information. And in years gone by, when you had people working down mines, they had Canaries to warn them if there was any buildup of dangerous gas. So the whole question for us is, in our businesses, what are the Canaries that are going to warn us about likely danger? Well, interestingly enough, there are companies now that actually scan the horizon for weak signals, for trends that might be happening. And this happens to be a company I know in Finland. One of the more popular writers in recent years has been someone called Malcolm Gladwell, and he wrote a book called The Tipping Point. And he says that there are 3 things you should look out for: the law of the few, the stickiness factor, and the power of context. And I particularly wanted to talk about the one which is called mavens. So what he says, mavens are information specialists or people we rely on to connect us with new information. And this is an example of the type of canary that you might want to look for in your business. And I say it's called a maven. And so, for example, I belong to a group which is called the Richmond Group, which is a society of consultants which specializes in sharing knowledge. And so, for example, some of the ideas that have been talked about within the last few months are the idea of big data, soft skills for strong leaders, heading for the cloud, hidden funding for small and medium-sized enterprises, messes, problems and puzzles, and skills for thinking strategically. So quite a wide variety of topics that consultants are discussing. So the second point I wanted to talk about was about improving execution. And really excellence in execution as well as good ideas is absolutely essential. And the approach I want to use is one called DICE, which some of you will know who've been attending my courses in the past. And this is based on some research that was done by Boston Consulting Group a little while ago. And it's a useful technique for assessing the likelihood of failure or success of a project. And it has these 4 dimensions, D-I-C-E. And the first one is duration, which is, do we actually have regular reviews of our projects? Integrity, which is about the quality of the team that's running it. The next one is around commitment. And one of the things actually you find is that the question is, are people committed to this project? And the next point, which is, are people who are actually involved in the execution of this project as committed to it as the people who commissioned it? And those of us who are in consulting will know that we're often hired at this level, but have to execute at this level, and the worldview of the two is often quite different. And the last thing is about effort. That's what the E stands for. And one of the challenges is about how much extra effort any project puts on an organization. And the rule of thumb is you should never ask for more than 10%. In other words, if you ask for too much extra effort in conducting a project, it's going to fail. And some organizations actually suffer from what's called initiative overload. There's too many initiatives. So you can have a calculation, and it's based on some subjective measures about the likelihood of success or failure. And you can refer to this an article in Harvard Business Review from about 2005, which goes into this. So the final thing I want to say before we break for coffee is a simple technique for thinking outside the box. So in conventional problem solving, we start where the problem is at, and then we seek to find a path to the solution. So I don't know if you can recognize what this is on the left. Any idea what it is? What is it? A tap, yes. So that's a better look at a tap. The point about problem solving is that very often when we're trying to think about a problem, we start with the problem and then work towards a solution. And so in essence, what we're doing is we're thinking inside the box. And so what I want to just finish with is a very simple technique, which is called random entry technique, where you start from somewhere which is not the problem. And so, I don't know what's going on the slide, can I? What I've done is simply take a list of words from the program that was advertising this particular session. And the question is that they are completely random. They're nothing to do with the problem of developing performance. And so if you've got any particular problem that you might want to solve and you want to think outside the box, what you need to do is start from a place that is outside the box. And so, very simply, you might take an article in a newspaper and take every 10th word, which is what I've done here, actually, for the program, and then say, well, what's the connection between this word and the problem I'm trying to solve? And it may be a very hard question to answer. How do I make that connection between this word and my problem? But it might give you an insight in the same way that that tap was perhaps a little less easy to see what it was in the first picture. It may give you a clearer view of the way of solving a problem for the future. So, being very conscious that I stand between you and coffee, I've taken far less time than I was programmed to do. So thank you very much.